with a number of organizations in a number of countries. The partnership includes Defense for Children International in Belgium and the agency FedAsil in Belgium. We're working with the NGO organization Arsis in Greece, Copin NGO in Malta, and the Terre des Hommes office in Romania. The Bridge project is supported by the European Union's Rights, Equality and Citizenship Program 2014-2020. And the objective that we have set for this project is to strengthen the statutory response to gender-based violence affecting children and youth on the move in Europe. As part of this project, in addition to other activities, we are also organizing a series of webinars to discuss issues related to gender-based violence as a way of sharing good practices, initiatives, knowledge, and learning. This webinar, or the purpose of this webinar today, is to present an initiative called PROTECT, as Vesna mentioned, Preventing Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Against Migrants and Strengthening Support to Victims. This is an initiative that is implemented by the International Organization for Migration. And this webinar today is providing us the opportunity to discuss, namely, the challenges that migrant victims of sexual and gender-based violence are encountering when they are seeking access to support services in Europe. And we will also get to see how the PROTECT project is addressing these issues. So I would like to, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Zsuzsanna Vég, who is a project coordinator, working as a project coordinator at the IOM office in Budapest. So without further ado, I would like to hand the floor over to Zsuzsanna. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nenad, and thank you, Vesna, for the introduction and for this opportunity to present our PROTECT project today. It's very exciting to be here. I hope everyone can hear me and can see the slide. Let me know if you encounter any difficulties. Okay, perfect, thank you. So today, as Nenad mentioned this, I'm going to talk about our regional project titled PROTECT, Preventing Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Against Migrants and Strengthening Support to Victims. I'm going to present you our project, main project activities and project outputs, and I also talk about a little bit about the main issues in the field of SGBV, sexual and gender-based violence, and migration. But before I talk about the project, I would like to say a few words about IOM, the International Organization for Migration. I'm working for IOM as a project coordinator, and I'm coordinating the regional project. So we are an intergovernmental organization, and IOM was established in 1951, and we work closely with other intergovernmental, non-governmental, and governmental organizations. This is true also in this project as well, as I'm going to talk about it later. IOM believes in humane, orderly, and safe migration for the benefit of all, and we work in 4 main areas of migration management, namely migration and development, facilitating migration, regulating migration, and forced migration. When it comes to the topic of gender-based violence, IOM has been very active in this field, but mostly in crisis situations. However, it is very important, as you can see on the slide. In 2018, we have published a document which addresses gender-based violence in crisis situation. But what is interesting is that the Protect project is the first regional project for IOM in the European region. So that is why we are very excited about this project. So, as I mentioned, it's a regional project, which means that it's being implemented in 12 EU member states. This includes Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Hungary, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Slovenia, and Spain. So, as you can see, these are this group of countries include first arrival countries as well as transit countries and destination countries. It means that the background of these countries and a number of migrants in these countries are very different. So this is why we have the main project activities in each country. They are slightly modified and adapted to national context. The project is being implemented together with 8 national NGOs, one NGO from Slovenia, 1 from Belgium, 3 from the Netherlands, and 3 from Spain. And they are all experts in the field of sexual and gender-based violence and or migration. Project partners have participated in different project activities in various countries, and I'm going to say a few words about this cooperation a little bit later. So what are the aims of the project? Well, basically the main aims are to strengthen the existing national support services for sexual and gender-based violence victims, and to coordinate better and make these services available for refugee, migrant, and asylum seeker victims and potential victims of SGBV. Another aim is to raise awareness among migrant communities and empower these communities. This project, just like the Bridge project, is funded by the European Union's Rights, Equality and Citizenship program, 2014 and 2020. And it started in October 2018, and it will end next March. So we are in the final phase of the project, which is very exciting. So most of our activities are ongoing, and before I move on to these specific activities, I would like to say I would like to mention a few key definitions in this field, because most of the times when we use these key terms like gender, gender identity, or gender-based violence, we can find slightly different definitions in reports or in different books. So I would just wanted to be clear on what do we mean, what IOM means by gender, gender identity, and gender-based violence in the context of this project. So in this project, we use IOM's definitions, which more or less the same as other organizations or the UN uses. So the first definition is gender. So what is gender? When we explain this term, we usually use the following definition. Gender is the socially constructed roles and relationships that society ascribes to people based on their assigned sex. However, gender refers not simply to women or men or other gender groups, but to the relationship between them two. What about gender identity? Gender identity is the deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond with the sex they were assigned at birth or the gender attributed to them by the society. And what is gender-based violence? Well, basically any harmful act that is perpetrated against a person's will and is based on socially ascribed differences between male and females. And now you can ask the question why we use in the project, why the project title is Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. Well, of course, sexual violence is a form of gender-based violence. There are many forms, but it's one of them. However, this is how the EU uses this term, and we decided to follow this and use sexual and gender-based violence, or SGBV, in our project. Okay, so now let's move on to the next slide. Which is about sexual and gender-based violence and migration. So when we talk about SGBV, we tend to think that only women can be victims of SGBV. This is obviously not true. Male victims exist, as well as children can be victims of SGBV as well. In this project, in the Protect project, we are targeting both children and adults with our project activities. And yes, and yeah. So who can be the victim of sexual and gender-based violence? Well, basically anyone. And the same goes for the perpetrators. So the perpetrator can be anyone as well. In the migration context, where can SGBV happen? Well, it can be, sexual and gender-based violence can be a reason why people decide to migrate and to leave their country of origin. Why is that? What kind of SGBV can happen to them in the country of origin? One reason can be the criminalization of homosexuality, for example, in their country of origin. Another reason can be harmful traditional practices, for example, female genital mutilation or forced marriage. Of course, sexual and gender-based violence is part of the reality of their journey, of the migration journey. The vulnerability of migrants increases when they are on the road, and especially for children and for unaccompanied children who are traveling by themselves without any accompanying adults. What can happen during the journey? Of course, sexual exploitation is one form of SGBV that can happen, but also they are also can be physically or emotionally abused as well. In the transit countries or country of destination, also sexual exploitation is one form of SGBV that can happen. It is also possible that they move to another country and their gender identity is not tolerated by the society or some part of the society, so they can be isolated or they can feel also ashamed. This isolation and feeling ashamed can be part of their experience when they return to their country of origin after they have been experienced SGBV, for example. It's always important to keep in mind, however, the so-called cultural relativism, which means that a person's belief or values should be understood based on that person's own culture, and not judged against the criteria of others. Yeah, so that's also important. This is something to keep in mind during the implementation of this project. So as I mentioned, one of the aims of the project is to strengthen existing national support services and make these services available to migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. So at the beginning of the project, we carried out national needs assessment exercises in all of the 12 countries. And we published a report on the findings. The report is called Mapping on Legal Frameworks and Assistance Available to Migrant Victims of Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. And among the main findings were the following. So first of all, the general lack of official statistics and central data analysis on SGBV among migrants. This is important because we need data in order to build projects, to implement different projects. We need to know what these people need. Another important finding was the lack of attention paid to male victims of SGBV. As I mentioned previously, men and boys can also be victims of sexual and gender-based violence. However, they are less likely to report these kind of abuses and violence. So that's why we think that information provision is extremely important in this context. Another finding was the language barriers. Most of the times, migrants arrive to different countries where they don't know the language, they don't have any social network, they don't know anyone, and it's very difficult for them to reach out to the appropriate support services or organizations where they can find help, whether it be legal, medical, or psychosocial help. And also, as I mentioned before, social stigma can also lead victims not to report these kinds of violence because they feel ashamed. That is why it's important to make them understand that this is not something that they should be ashamed for. They are not to be blamed. They can ask for help anytime, and they are entitled to receive help if they are in need. You can download the report from the Protect webpage, and you can see the link at the bottom of the slide. Another project activity is the development or the review of existing standard operating procedures or guidelines. In 8 countries, the project contributes to the development or review of standard operating procedures on sexual and gender-based violence and migration. And what is interesting, and it's connected to one of the findings that I mentioned before, is that in Spain there has been a limited data collection activity, which means that as part of IOM's displacement tracking matrix project, IOM colleagues visited different reception centers and collected data on sexual and gender-based violence-related questions. These were not direct questions. We didn't ask whether someone has experienced SGBV, because we think that most of the time they wouldn't share this information with a colleague there. However, we asked whether if they were in need of these kinds of help, whether they had access to these services in their country of origin, during the journey, or in the country of destination. The results will be published as part of the Spanish guidelines in the upcoming month. The next project activity is the development of training tools on sexual and gender-based violence and migration. In this regard, we worked closely together with our project partners. So, for example, our Slovenian project partner, Legebitra, developed a training chapter on LGBTI issues and migration, while our Belgian project partner, Le Monde Salon de Femmes, apologies for my French, I don't speak French. So they prepared a handbook on sexual violence and migration, while IOM Budapest, we prepared a training tool on identification of sexual and gender-based violence victims and communication with them. And also there is a part on intercultural communication. The training tools will be published on our website in the upcoming weeks, definitely by the end of January, and it will be available for everyone who would like to use it and carry out trainings on this subject. And this is what we are doing as well. So since this September, we have been carrying out capacity building trainings for professionals, including first responders, like border guards, the police, or social workers, and also for general service providers, like teachers, and also to specialized service providers, like health professionals or interpreters. And the second big part of our project is the awareness raising campaign, because we consider very important to provide information on sexual and gender-based violence to the migrant communities. So this is why we have this regional information campaign on SGBV. And as part of this campaign, we developed a 2-minute animated video which is available in 23 languages, including French, Arabic, Pashto, Urdu, Tigrinya, and so on. And we have also developed leaflets separately for children and for adults, which are available with country-specific information on SGBV. It includes, the leaflets includes the rights and the available services in these 12 countries. These leaflets are also available in different languages, and I'm just going to show you some pictures of the leaflets. So at the top you can see the child leaflet, and at the bottom you can see the leaflet for adults. As you can see, they are slightly different. Obviously the language is different, so we try to develop a leaflet for children which use a child-friendly language, and also the different images are more for teenagers actually than adults. You can download the information materials from this link, as you can see on the slide, and you can also watch the videos in different languages there. Unfortunately, at the moment, not all of the language versions are available on the website, but they will be uploaded very soon. So you may want to come back a few weeks later and check out all the language versions that will be available by that time. How do we use these information materials? Well, we are delivering information sessions for migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers in the 12 project countries. These are either one-on-one sessions or group sessions, I mean small group sessions. We are screening the video, and after that we are having a discussion with the participants about sexual and gender-based violence and about where they can turn to if they need any help now or in the future. The aim of these information sessions is to provide information. So we are not there to help directly. We are not psychologists or doctors, obviously, but we can refer them to the appropriate organization where they can receive the much needed specialized support and help. In the information sessions are being carried out usually together with intercultural mediators and or interpreters. So to make sure that the information is understood by every participant. We are organizing information sessions. For example, in Italy, we are organizing information sessions for unaccompanied children in reception centers, while in the Netherlands, for example, our colleagues, the so-called migrant ambassadors, are delivering these information sessions. They are migrants themselves, and they are reaching out to the different migrant communities and providing information and help as possible. As I mentioned, we are still organizing these sessions. So if anyone is interested to receiving either trainings or information sessions, they can go to our website. I'm going to show the link at the end of the presentation. And you can find the contact person in each country, and you can always reach out to them and ask for the trainings or for the information sessions. Or if you cannot download for whatever reason from our website the information materials, you can ask for them as well from our colleague. And now I would like to show you our 2-minute animated video. Actually, I would like to finish my presentation with the video. And after that, if you have any questions, then feel free to ask, to use the chat, and I will try to answer all of your questions. And now I'm going to start the video. Let me know if you don't hear it or cannot see it. Okay.
Leaving your country is life-changing. Sometimes you have to leave everything behind. On your way, you may face challenging and unknown situations. Finding a new home, your place in the world again, is a long journey. You don't know who you can trust. Being a migrant can place you in a vulnerable situation, even if you left your home on your own will. Sexual and gender-based violence means being hurt because of your gender identity, your sexual orientation, or just because you're a man or a woman. They can hurt you because they are stronger or because they are in a position of authority. Unfortunately, sometimes the closest ones to you, your partner or a family member, can harm you physically, sexually, emotionally, verbally, financially, or by isolating you from family, friends, and help. You can feel ashamed and stigmatized by the community, but no one has the right to hurt you. Sexual and gender-based violence is never your fault. If you experience or even suspect abuse, take action. It doesn't matter when and where the abuse occurred. You can still get help and support. On this link, you can see a list of organizations that can help you in your country.
Okay, well, that was the video. Thank you very much for your attention. On the slide, you can see the link to our central webpage and also to the website where you can download the videos or watch the videos, sorry, and download the leaflets and the poster. And if you have any questions, then you can use the chat now, or you can always write an email to me or contact me via phone. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susanna, for a very interesting presentation. I have to say that it was really good to finish your presentation with such a video. It was really powerful. As I understood, there is 23 languages translation with subtitles. Did I understood it well?
Yes, that's correct. The video is available with subtitles in 23 languages.
Okay, and people, I believe, can use it also to share it among the professional networks in the country, right?
Absolutely, yeah, we encourage everyone. Sorry, I didn't mention this, but we encourage everyone to share the video. Yes.
Yeah, it is really powerful, and I believe I didn't see this kind of video on this kind of specific subject. So I believe it can be really of good use to other organizations that are working in this area. Also, I would say that all of these kind of materials that you're developed, also that will be possible to get in different languages, is a really really good output of the project too. So it is great. I heard that it's also been delivered in Croatia. I will definitely go on the website to see who is the contact person to Croatia and to really contact the person to see can we have this kind of materials in Croatian language also. So I believe it will be really useful, and thank you for sharing all of this great information. Will there be any kind of follow-up after the project, or the project will just stop?
We don't know yet. Okay. What we know now is that the project will definitely end in March. Obviously, the project materials will remain available on our website.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the most important things of the project. And there are, in certain countries, they are in discussion with different organizations and stakeholders and donors to continue in some way the Protect project. We hope that it will happen at least in some of the countries. But again, the project materials, including the mapping report, including the training tools and the information materials, will remain available after the end of the project.
Yeah. Sounds perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your time to come here to present this very valuable information and materials with us. I believe this YouTube recording will be shared also among other professionals. Also, we will use, for the participants to have information, we will use your presentation to upload to the Child Hub webinar page also. So they will have all of these kind of links and materials visible even they didn't have possibility to be on this webinar today. So I don't see any questions in the chat box. You shared your email there, so I believe people can contact you if they have any kind of questions or comments after the session, of course. Like always, thank you, Susanna, and like always, I will share evaluation polls here, so please give us a minute and evaluate. Yes, you will be able to see it on the screen. Please give us feedback. It's always really important for us to get feedback for you so we can upgrade our services, of course, in the future. And also, if you want to receive certificate of being in this webinar today, just write on this email and you will get certificate on an email in a few days. So yes. Thank you, Susanna, very much again. It was really a pleasure to meet you, and I hope that we will cooperate again in the future. Nenad, also thank you very much for your time, and I believe we will definitely cooperate with the Bridge webinars also in the future. It is always a great pleasure.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you very much also for the opportunity again.
You're welcome. And also to everybody, thank you for joining us, and we wish you a really nice rest of the day. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye.